Hi, I'm Peter Welpton, Vice President of Sales, with a brand new podcast from Usability Sciences Corporation. Now, Usability Sciences is a full-service user research firm based in Dallas, Texas, with nearly 4 decades of experience helping brands around the world succeed. We'll be bringing you in-depth discussions on the hottest topics in user experience, at least once a month, maybe sometimes more. Today, we're going to cover brands choosing to offer and not offer different tiers of service to users, or moving up and down in terms of paid or free services. We're also going to talk about gamer identity and how that has affected the world of user testing and user experiences. And of course, just like everybody else, we're going to talk about AI and how that gets into the world of user experience testing. And then, of course, some big, much discussed topics of AI products that have been launched into the world and not done very well. So we'll talk all about that. So let's get started. So this is Adrienne Guillory. She is COO and researcher at Usability Sciences, and my buddy and my co-host. So one of the things I wanted to start off before we get into larger conversations is some of the topics happening in the UX space. And one of the more interesting ones I think about is how companies are shifting from free tiers to premium or paid tiers. And in the case of some other products that are well established and have been paid for services for a long time, are converting to free tiers. And what I think is interesting in that conversation is, what does that change as a user experience and their expectations? Do they go up? Do they go down as the tier changes?
So one of the things, so I actually had this experience last night. So I'm trying to create a document, a wheel specifically. And the tool that I went into.
Is there something I need to know?
No, just planning.
Okay.
You know,
all right. Good. Smart.
Like financial planning.
Just making
Peter.
sure.
So I went into the tool and it lets me answer like 2 or 3 questions, and then it asked me to pay. And I was like, okay, but I haven't seen anything yet. And it wasn't like cheap. It was a pretty penny. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, so you want me to pay for it and then hope what you give me is what I need? It didn't show me examples. It didn't show me, I guess I'm just supposed to have some knowledge about what is supposed to be in there and if it's going to do what I need it to do. They didn't give me that option at all. And I'm just like, that's not how the world works, right? You're supposed to show it to me, let me see what I can do. Let me play with it, kick the tires, and then I decide whether or not I'm going to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
That's what feels right to me. So I think if you're planning a product that way, you're missing an opportunity, because you just assume that everybody's going to be willing to open their wallet. I've seen people cry and complain over $7, right? Like, you can't expect that they're just going to trust you, right? For a lot of things, it needs to be some sort of a free tier, at least to have people have an opportunity to make sure they like it.
How can companies best test that experience, though, or figure out what people's expectations are as they move from a free tier to a premium tier?
So a couple of things we can do. So early on, when you're trying to even decide what this product is, and we start to figure out what features and functionality it should have, you have 3 groups. You have must-have, you have nice to have, and you have absolutely don't want. People aren't doing that research up front. So they're trying to figure out, how much of this thing do I give you before I take your money? So here's the thing. What I would say is it should have most of the must-haves, okay? And then a couple of the, let me show you how to get to the nice-haves. You haven't even thought about how cool this thing is, but if you give me a couple of dollars, then I'll show you how really cool this thing could be. And then they have things that are just like, I don't need this feature at all. So a couple weeks ago, I was trying to have that Women in Tech Award thing coming up next week, and I waited till the last minute to get my headshot, right? So I was like, let me just find an app that does that. So I found a couple of apps, and it didn't have any of the must-have features in there. I could test it for free, but it didn't have any of the must-have features. So to be able to kick the tires, I would have to pay for the premium experience. I downloaded 3 apps that day, because as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, this isn't the tool for me, closed it, and I was on to the next thing. And that's how customers think about it.
Right.
Like, if I can't test this thing, especially when you talk about things that are new, like AI, like, I don't know what I'm going to get. I want to see what I'm going to get first before I make an investment. So especially when it's something new, they need an opportunity to see it, right? Be able to see themselves in it, like trying on clothes. I need to be able to see myself doing this thing, right, before I pay all that money.
So in the inverse of that, Evernote recently announced this, and I've also had a similar experience with one of the music streaming services where they either in Evernote's case, went from a paid premium service to a free tier, like they downgraded you, or in the streaming service, it was a reduction in cost. And in my experience, my immediate reaction was, what am I losing? Because there's no way you suddenly are giving this to me for less money for no good reason unless you're saving money yourself from some way. And I wondered how those companies tested that, or how they go through the process of figuring out how their audience or their customer base is going to react to that kind of change. Because I think the initial thing is, why wouldn't everybody be ecstatic? They're getting something for less money or free or whatever.
So in that scenario, I don't know what would cause a company to actually ask the question, like, we're going to make it free all of a sudden. And for some people, there's like, oh, thank you for that, right? But what should happen, so let's say they make it free and then they start to see people cancel out their memberships. Then they probably need to go back and talk to some of those people and figure out what it was that they didn't like.
But you can't test for that first? Could you put that through some sort of piece of research to find out how people will react to that?
You could do a usability test. You could do a focus group. You could do a sample of people that you send that early messaging to and see how they respond to it. But it really comes down to, like you said, that functionality. If you didn't take anything away, it may not be a question.
Right.
But if you started to take away some of those things that they've gotten used to without giving them an option to like upgrade, now you have a problem.
My other reaction was, well, should I be angry that I've been paying $20 a month all this time? Now I'm going to get it for $5 less?
Yeah, but that's not a user issue.
Have I been overpaying? That's what I wanted to know.
That's a PR problem, right?
Yeah?
And we don't worry about that. That's a PR problem, right?
So if you're going the other way and you're increasing the price, are there different types of people to test, like people that have never tried the product or service before, or people that have been rolling with the free thing forever that are now being asked to pay more?
I would definitely test it out first.
So, both of them? Both those types?
Right. Yeah. So, well, specifically the user base that you already have. Let me test it with them, because if there's a new person coming in, then you just missed that pricing opportunity, right? Other people who would be grandfathered in or who have been your customers, loyal customers, that's the group you need to actually test that concept with, because those are the people you're going to, I don't know if I can say that word. Those are the people you're going to make angry. So we want to start with
any word you want to, Adrienne.
No, I can't.
Okay.
But those are the people you're going to make angry. So I would definitely do some sort of either a focus group. I would have some IDIs, some one-on-one conversations, but you want to get their reaction, like their real reaction to seeing that messaging or something to that effect.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm not Gen Z. But I am of a generation that kind of introduced the concept of gamers. By the way, I'm switching topics on you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I
didn't do that very smoothly.
Okay.
And, we all started playing games when I was a kid on the very rudimentary, very basic level. And as we got older into our high school and college years, there was a definite personality of a gamer. Like, not everybody played games back then. If you were playing video games, you were a different sect of the population of teenagers. But now with Gen Z and Gen Alpha and all the new generations, these are kids and young adults that have grown up with video games, and the concept of gamer is now essentially you're just a human being. And I wonder, as when you do usability testing and user research for products and in that type of experience, do you have to consider that differently today than maybe you did 5-10 years ago?
So there are types of gamers. So yes, we may say that everybody is a gamer, but there are very different types of gamers.
Yeah.
So we can't ignore that part. So then it's like, why do you game? What is it that you're trying to get to? What types of things are you interested in exploring? And then you do your research at that level. So it's not the same as maybe 20 years ago saying that gamers were this, and this. Gamers can be anybody, but their interests are very specific, and you can do research at that level.
It's funny because I think about it. This dawned on me the other day. I walked in, and my mom, who's like, well, I probably shouldn't say, but
yeah,
she was on her phone. I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm playing a game." And my mom was playing a video game on her phone. I don't know if it was like Candy Crush or Solitaire or whatever. It was a basic game, but seeing my mom play a video game was really weird. My wife plays a couple of video games on her phone.
Yep.
And so everybody is, even, you don't have to be Gen Z, everybody does that these days. It's kind of a whole new thing.
It's like grocery shopping, right? Like at one point, it's like, yes, everybody's going to game, but you're going in there for different things. So I always find it interesting from a research standpoint why we want to focus on certain age groups and not what they're doing, right? Or what they're going there to do. So my mom, I'll say it, my mom is a beautiful 74, okay? And she does that. She has her tablet open. She's watching TV. She's doing things on her computer.
She's a multitasker. Yeah.
One of those is going to be solitaire. One of those is Monopoly or something on Facebook, right? So it's, but again, people they're gaming at different levels and they're interested in different things, and you should do research at that level.
Interesting. Okay. I was reading a whole article about that the other day, and I never thought about gaming in that way. And then how that applied to other, in terms of research. That's a whole new and different idea.
Are you a gamer?
I am, not as much as I used to be when I was a kid. I mean, I've got a gaming console and I play a couple things on my phone, but not like I used to be.
Like my point of gaming has changed. So there's two things. One, I just realized the other day. So my one game is spades, because nobody would let me play spades. So I don't know if you know this, but in the Black community, like playing spades is a big deal. And if you don't know how to play, you can't sit out at a table. They won't let you do it. So to get good, I play on my phone so that I can be ready this summer, and I will be, just so you know.
You gonna be good at it?
Oh my gosh, I'm so good at it on the phone. The other one though is because my work is so spread out, I like task-based things. So my other game is me managing like 3 hotels, Peter. So I spend hours managing hotels.
My wife plays a game. Yes. What is it with managing hotels and building houses?
And a Domino's pizza. There's one that the game is just managing a Domino's pizza. They don't call it Domino's, but all the colors are there.
Interesting.
Branding works. Okay.
Do you own multiple?
I don't know.
Franchises?
I haven't bought that one yet.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm still managing. I have 3 hotels, Peter. Big hotels, fancy ones at that.
I want to move on to another bigger topic, and it's the most popular topic. I know that at least in our business and in my conversations, it's the most dominating thing, almost to the point of annoyance, which is AI. We talk about it all the time, and AI as it applies to research, and this kind of speed or rush to figure out how we integrate artificial intelligence into doing user testing and usability testing. And you, who have an entire career around this and you're considered an expert at it, you and I really haven't talked about this very much. I'm really interested to know, are you worried about it? Do you fear it? Do you poo-poo it? Are you excited about it?
So no, I'm not scared of it at all. I think of AI like a tool, right? So there are 2 conversations, and hopefully we'll get to the other one as well. But AI is a research tool, would give us some opportunities to do some things in terms of efficiency, right? So if I'm doing 8 to 12 user sessions, I don't take hand notes anymore, right? I'm too grown for that. No, now I use tools. I upload those transcripts into tools, and then I'm able to do my analysis and let AI do its thing in terms of content aggregation and things like that. So I use it for that. It's perfect for that. It also creates like summaries and highlights for me, right? Things that would have traditionally taken us hours. So shout out to anybody who used Moray back in the day. Like, we can now do all of those things way faster. So no, AI in terms of how we use it for research is going to just be another tool that we should all be good at in terms of how to use it. The question though that I run into is everyone wants to test their AI experience. Right? So how do we get AI into our product? Well, it depends on what you sell, right? Like, that's not for everybody. And then trying to figure out how do you get it into your process. So we've done a lot of AI testing, and the number one question for the participant is, where do I get started? AI doesn't always have a face. It doesn't have an interface to interact with. So I just expect this thing to work, and I don't want to have to know how it works. I just want it to work. So being able to get AI into your product seamlessly should be the goal, not how do I force this thing down people's throat.
Another part of that for people that are integrating AI into their products is the idea that you do need to test that as if it was a product without, just like you would have if it didn't have AI. Just because it has AI in it doesn't instantly make it better.
Yeah.
It can introduce its own set of problems and poor user experiences.
It's interaction. So yesterday I was on a couple of calls yesterday. One I thought got canceled, and it did get canceled. The person canceled, and then I got a notification saying that somebody's in your waiting room. So I like freaked out, like, oh, did I miss it? Because I thought he canceled. I go into the meeting, his AI joined. His AI note taker joined the meeting.
Okay, that's weird.
Okay, so that was one call yesterday. Then I was on a call last night, and I think there was supposed to be like 6 people on this call. Okay, there were 3 people on the call and like 6 AI tools, because all these people's AI tools joined the meeting and they weren't there.
You know, we're all going to collectively forget how to take notes if we're going to leave it up to AI.
But you can't have a conversation, right, with a bunch of tools. Taking notes, I've seen some really cool things. So there are a couple of, I don't go on to that, but there are a couple of note takers. One of them that joined the call last night even introduced himself in the chat. I thought that was pretty cool, right? But that's one of those.
I'm going to ask you to tell me what it told you its name was.
It just introduced it by the person's name, and I'm their note taker.
Oh, okay.
So it was simple, and that's one of those things. It's like, so when you think about AI in your product, that was something that caught me off guard, but I was pleasantly surprised. Like, my first thing after the call was to go look that up, because I was like, okay, so I think you have actually paid attention to that user experience. But things like your note taker joining meetings for you is weird.
So I'm going to ask, so the question I'm about to ask you is the one that we get into all the time with clients, which is the timing of which you introduce testing, even with AI, because you know where I'm going with this, which is you don't want to wait until you've finished it and find out that it doesn't work or it sucks, right? You want to know in advance what works or doesn't work with it at the beginning of as you're going through the process of building it.
So I'm going to say it to the camera. Fail quietly. Fail in this nice protected place before you launch it, so that you don't get embarrassed, right? People want to wait till it's done and it's launched. And you've heard me say this 1,000 times. Everything you do will get usability tested. Everything. But you can do it quietly, right? In the confines of research, and everybody's not exposed to it. Or you can just launch it and wait for all the bad reviews, which is what people tend to do unnecessarily. But yeah, so we can do this at concept phase. So you just have, here's the idea. We want to talk it through with people, get their thoughts about how it works and what their expectations might be. You can do this when you have a prototype. There's something to actually look at and click through, or you can wait until it's developed, all of which should happen before you launch it. But if you have to launch it, we can do it then too.
Okay. This is actually the perfect segue to the thing I've been dying to talk to you about, which has been a bit of a headline thing, a thing in the news in the last few weeks, which is related to AI and related to usability testing and user experiences. And it is these 2 AI products that were launched into the universe. Rabbit, which is the little orange handheld AI device, and then the Humane Pin, which is almost like a Star Trek communicator we're finally going to get to. And what I was absolutely fascinated by was the speed in which the very popular tech reviewer community panned all of those. The one that I saw first was Marquise Brownlee, who did a really, really good, smart job of dissecting initially the Pin. I think he called it the worst product I've ever reviewed. And then he subsequently gave almost an equally poor review of the Rabbit device as well. And he kept talking about these user experience moments with each of the devices and just talking about how it just didn't work. And I'm watching this thinking, these are companies that raised insane amounts of money. They had to have done user testing, usability testing of this product. And where did that go wrong? How did they goof that up? And I'm wondering if you watched all this and thought the same thing that I did.
So I commend him on putting together videos that long, because mine would have been short. Mine would have started with, why does this thing exist at all? Right?
Yeah.
And then it would have been over, right? I would have been done with it, because that was my initial takeaway. I think how people get themselves in this position is everybody is hoping for the pet rock everybody is hoping for this thing that really has no purpose. We know it has no purpose, but it's novel and it's interesting and maybe even funny. But I think that's what they were going for, because especially the rabbit, you give me something that does less than my phone, and I'm supposed to also carry this thing with me. Why? Why is this even a thing? So who was this even intended for?
Right. And I think that's one of the things that we run into pretty often is exactly this question, which is, oh, well, yes, of course I'm going to be doing usability testing on the experience. You're like, well, wait, hold on.
Pause.
You haven't even asked the first question.
I think I've messed up plenty of sales calls just like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's true.
That's usually when it goes left, when I say, but did we ever ask if this thing should exist?
Right.
Right. I mean, it's fun and I appreciate that, but
so what is the best way to ask that question? So if do you have to have a tangible thing in your hands to show people and ask them that question? Can you do it at the most nascent stages of the product idea? Like, what's the best way to approach that?
So I have two perspectives on that. So the people who put this thing together and were super excited about it, they needed to see it fail. So in that regard, I think they needed to at least get to like a prototype level and now go out to people and talk to them, because I feel like they needed to actually hear why this thing wasn't going to work. But for everybody else, it could have been a focus group early on to talk about, hey, we have this thing and we want to see how you might use it and what would it need and what features would you expect? Because in those conversations, they would have found out that bar is really high, right? And this thing was going to be nowhere near that.
It's interesting because I think about Apple and Vision Pro and all the hype that was surrounding it in the days and weeks leading up to its launch, and then in the day, maybe week or two subsequent to its launch. And now we're, 6-8 weeks since it's come out, and nobody's talking about it, and sales, unless you see something about sales dropping off. And I wonder how much of that, along with AI Pen and the Rabbit device, are companies just rushing to market because maybe there's just a drive to get something in the market first to test the waters in general. You see you know what I mean by that?
Because we have a timeline, we have a roadmap, and we have a launch date.
Right.
And we've even seen it. We have clients who are like, we can't move that launch date. But you haven't validated these concepts. You don't know if it's right yet. And they're just pushing to get it out. So here's the thing. I think a lot of those people have this idea that there'll be a second bite at that apple, right? Like, oh, if we mess it up, that fail fast. Remember when everybody's like, fail fast? Well, we meant fail fast and quiet. We didn't mean fail fast publicly, right?
In front of everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, you can put some things out there and you can learn, but especially when you're talking about product development, you can't just go back and rework that thing in a couple of days, right? That's not a website. So I think people are just kind of saying, oh, well, we'll fail fast. We'll keep iterating. You may not get that opportunity, especially if it's a tangible product.
So things like that really aren't even usability testing issues. They're just general user testing or market.
So I would say market testing and user testing are going to be a little bit different, right? Because market testing is, are they willing to pay for it, right? So like the PlayStation, what number are we at now?
11.
Yeah, that one.
No,
that one.
5.
I did not wait in the rain to get my son that damn PlayStation because I was going to play it, right? I don't even know how to turn the stupid thing on, right? But I got it because my son wanted it. So in that instance, I'm the market, but I'm not the user, right? So if you want to go back and take it, and like I said, easiest thing is like a focus group. Hey, I have this thing. Let's look at it. Let's try it. Does it work? What would you be wanting to do with it? And does it meet that standard? And if it doesn't, then you go back to the drawing board. If it does, then you proceed. But you should have those and ask the right questions. Not, does it work, right? It's not QA testing. It is this solving a problem or need for you in a way that makes you feel good or accomplished?
This company that you and I work for has been around for 35 years. It's tested like in the most insane wide range of software and user experiences you can possibly imagine. And devices. And I think whether they are AI or digital or analog or person to person, there are just kind of common themes that run through all of those experiences and how you test them and how you can save yourself a ton of time and money and heartache and embarrassment if you just kind of apply some of these practices from the start, from the jump.
And it should be part of your process. So some of the challenges that I and other researchers run into is business treats research as an afterthought, right? So when you look at like that budget, there is going to be a line item for design, right? The people who have to come in and design it. There's going to be a line item for development, right? Because they go pay somebody to do that. Research is just supposed to be a function of those two things. And that's not necessarily giving it the time and attention that it needs, because now researchers have to abide by their timeline. And that's not really giving it, right, the space that we're supposed to have. So, yeah, if I could tell everybody, just go ahead and build it into your process and know that. And budget. Because if I'm selling something to you, getting it right should be my main priority, right? And I won't know if it's right if you don't tell me, right? Yeah. That should be my main priority. And I want business to start acting as such.
Okay, we made it through the first episode. What are the big things we learned today out of talking about usability testing and user experience testing? I think the first thing we learned is that everybody's a gamer.
Everybody's a gamer.
Even our moms are gamers.
Yes.
And that does change things in terms of testing and how you think about that, right?
Yes. It shouldn't, but it does.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the other big thing we learned?
We should do research early.
Yes.
Right? We should do research as much as we expect to fail and try again.
Right.
Yep.
Fail quietly.
Fail quietly.
Right.
Yes.
And what was the third thing we learned about tears?
We learned that we.
Or we discussed. How about that?
Oh, okay. Because I was like, I had an opinion.
You already learned it.
I did. I suffered through it last.
You learned me.
So yeah. So freemiums is, we need to think about what is the goal, right? If we're trying to get new customers, then what do they need to be able to see and do so that they can make a purchasing decision? That's it.
Very good. A good 30 minutes or so, whatever that was. Thank you for watching. This was the debut episode of a new podcast from Usability Sciences Corporation. And we will be back, in a day or two or week or whatever, and we'll have another conversation about all of this. So thanks for watching.